Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to Guitar Foundations. I'm Nate Savage, and if you made it through the last lesson, that song we played in the last video, congratulations, you are doing a great job getting your strumming and chord changes together. In this video, I want to introduce you to one of the most useful accessories that you can have or use as a guitar player. I also want to take what we learned in the last lesson and build on it to work on a more interesting 16th note strumming pattern. Don't be scared. I know a lot of newer players, when they hear 16th notes, they're like, oh Lord, that's too fast. Don't worry about it. I'm going to show you a really simple way to use the constant strumming technique to start playing through 16th note strumming patterns and kick your strumming up to the next level. Anyway, the accessory that I was talking about that'll make your life a lot easier and is so useful for every guitar player. Every guitar player should have one, is a capo, something called a capo. I'll show it to you right here. And they come in all different price brackets, really expensive, really cheap, and really reasonable. A $20 capo like this will do just fine. If you spend a little more, like $25, you can get some with a lot better features. But let's say they're playing a song with a singer and it's a little bit too low for the singer. What do you do? So for example, if you're playing the song we learned in the last lesson, or any pop song, and the person you're singing it with is too low for them, what do you do? Well, you could, and we'll get into this later when we get into bar chords, you could play it with bar chords. You could do that, you could play bar chords, or you could use some other more complicated chords on the guitar, but there is an easier way, and especially if you're playing acoustic guitar, you might not want to be playing bar chords all night. If you're playing in a band situation or something like that, that's where the capo comes in. Let's say your singer that you're playing with just needs the song to be a little bit higher. What do you do? So what you can do is move your G shapes up that you've been using. Let's say they only need it one key higher. You could put your capo on the first fret and use the exact same shapes you've been using up one fret higher. And now all of a sudden, instead of playing in G major, you're playing in G sharp or A flat major. And this all comes back to the notes on the low E string as to where we get the name for this chord. If you look at the names of the notes on the low E string, this right here, this root note for this chord shape is now on a G sharp instead of a G. So you can play like the chorus progression for Denial Avenue that we're working on. So that instead of this. You see how we just shifted everything up one fret. Now, a couple of things to note when you use a capo. You want to get the capo fairly close to the fret, not right on it, just behind it. Also want to make sure it's on there even and straight. And also, when you put a capo on, you will have to retune your guitar because often it'll make the strings go sharp a little bit. So just be aware of that. As soon as you put a capo on, you have to retune your guitar as well. So for this lesson, I have jam tracks for you in two different keys. I have the original key of G major, but I also have the key of G sharp major for you. So if you want to experiment with using a capo, you can pull that up and play along to it in whichever key you want. And there's a lot more to learn about using a capo, don't get me wrong, but this is a really nice introduction just to let you know that you can use your open chords. If you only know a few open chords, you can use them to play in any key you want. You'll learn more about how to use a capo as you learn more and more songs that use capos. Now keep that in the back of your mind as we finish the rest of this video. And I want to go over something with you that's going to help you get more creative and diverse with your strumming, and that is 16th note strumming. And in order to do that, you need to learn how to count 16th notes. So far we've just been using 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and same thing with our strumming pattern, just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, that strumming pattern that we used in the last song. Now there are 8 eighth notes in each measure of music. We've learned that in previous lessons. Now what happens when you cut those 8 eighth notes in half? How many do you get? 16, right? So you get twice as many 16th notes in one measure, or 16 16th notes in one measure, a 4/4 time. Now, you have to come up with a way to count each individual note in that one measure, a 4/4 time. And the way you do that is this: 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So that gives you 16 distinct markers for each potential 16th note that could be in one measure of 4/4 times. So if you had just a straight down and up strumming pattern, straight alternating and you put 16th notes to that, just count 1, and 2, and 3, 4. When you do this, you end up with downstrokes on the numbers and the ands. So 1, E, and, okay, so downstrokes on the numbers and the ands. So 1, and you end up with upstrokes on the E's and the so 1, E, and that's just something to be aware of, because when you play 16-note strumming patterns, especially in the beginning, you need to keep this constant strumming technique, right? Just keep that going no matter what. And the really great example of this is why I had you use a straight downstroke strumming pattern in the last video, in the last lesson where we went over this song. Just check it out. Here's the strumming pattern. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Let me slow that down. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Notice we're doing the constant strumming technique because we're coming up each time, but we're not digging into the strings. All the E's and the U's are not being played because we're not digging in with upstrokes. So 1, E, and 2, E. Now, if you're to dig in with all the upstrokes you're playing there, you're going to end up with just a regular straight 16th note strumming pattern that uses alternating down and upstrokes. 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 4. Now, the whole point of this is to start coming up with more creative strumming patterns that fit whatever song that you're playing along to or whatever song you're learning. And we're going to get creative with this and put a strumming pattern to this song, Denial Avenue, that fits the flow of the song a little bit more. And I'll show it to you. It's just a 2-beat strumming pattern that you repeat over and over again. And all it is playing all downstrokes for 2 beats except for on the of beat 2. I'll show you what I mean by that. So if you have 1 E and a 2 E and a, that's going to be our pattern, or like our grid. So if you have 1 E and 2 E and okay, you see I only dug into the strings on the of 2. I still did upstrokes for each E and with my upstrokes, but I only dug in on the of 2. So look at that again. 1 E and 2 E and that is our 2-beat strumming pattern. 2-beat 16th note strumming pattern that we're going to be using to make this a little bit more interesting. And it sounds weird until you hear it in context. Let me play it for you up to speed and you'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds really cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, and... Okay, I was doing the exact same thing as just all downstrokes. But every 2 beats for the I was putting in an upstroke. So that's one really easy way to practice this. Since most of these chords in this progression get 2 beats, it's a really good kind of landmark or two for when to switch chords. So you can play that strumming pattern and then know you're supposed to switch, then switch. That D gets 4 beats, so you play that strumming pattern twice for any chord that gets 4 full beats or 1 full measure. And the counting there will be 1 E and 2 E and 4 E. So my recommendation for you to get the strumming pattern down would be to mute the strings and just work very slowly at first. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... And you may be thinking, well, 16th notes, it's really fast. I can't do that. It's too fast for me. That's not true. Think about it. If I was counting this with just quarter notes and 8th notes, it would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and. It's just your perspective. I could get those quarter notes and 8th notes to sound the exact same thing if I sped them up. It's just kind of your perception. So don't let that psych you out. You can play 16 notes. It's just a matter of learning how to count them and realizing that it's just sped up. Really, all you have to do is work on getting this faster and being aware of how we're counting it. So let's do this real quick. Just grab your guitar, mute your strings, and play this with me. It'd be something like this: 1 and a 2 and a 3 and 4 and a. And if you need to slow it down, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and I think I left out an upstroke there, but you get the main idea. And eventually you're going to want to get to where you don't have to think about it. Just once you're feeling comfortable with that, start putting it with the different sections of the song. So start out with the verse or the intro progression. And that's the entire intro. Just do that progression twice. Then the verse is the same, of course. Then you have, to end the verse, you have that tag with the C. And it's the same thing we played in the last one, but we have that one upstroke in there. So it's the difference between this and this. My right hand didn't change at all. It was doing this the whole time. It just chose to dig into the strings on the uhs of 2. So 2 E and the of 4. So 1 and a 2 E. Okay, I don't want to beat a horse to death, but I want you to make sure to get this and make sure that you understand that it's not as complicated as it sounds, or not as complicated as some people make it out to be. I have 4 jam tracks for you for this lesson, at least different versions of the same song. It's Denial Avenue in G major at, I believe it's 70 beats and 84 beats per minute. And then I have one version of it for you in G sharp major at 70 beats and 84 beats per minute. That way, if you don't have a capo, you can just do the version in G major, you're good to go. If you have a capo, practice using your capo and play along to it with or without the new strumming pattern. I would encourage you to really work on getting this down by itself, and then start to use it in the song. And if you need to work on this without a metronome at all or without a jam track at all first, I really recommend that. Then try the slower version, then try the full speed version. Here are your assignments for this lesson. Number 1, if you have a capo, put it on the 1st fret and play through all of the parts of Denial Avenue in G sharp major instead of just G major. Number 2, understand 16th notes and practice counting them. Number 3, learn and practice the straight alternating downstroke and upstroke 16th note strumming pattern that we went over. Number 4, learn and practice the 2-beat 16th note strumming pattern that we went over for this song. So 1 and 2 and a. Number 5, play through the song with no metronome. And number 6, play through the song with a jam track, either one you want, either the slower one or the faster one, preferably both. I wanted to play through the song for you so you have an example of what to shoot for and how this will sound in context with the capo on and with the 16th note strumming pattern. Here it is. I know we've covered some really challenging things in this lesson and the last lesson, but I just want to encourage you that you're making really good progress if you're keeping up, and these are the core things you need to know and master to be able to play the music that you want. The 16th note strumming, being able to use the capo are all very important for your progress. So if you have any questions at all, you can leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to you there, or you can email me, nate@natesavage.com. And if you're struggling with any one particular thing, go to natesavage.com and book a private lesson with me. The first one is always complimentary. Pick up a copy of the Guitar Foundations ebook too. That'll be a big help to you. I'll see you in the next lesson.